That.
Hold on, just a second.
What? You may want to look over the table. There was some marked up stuff and stuff that looked special that on the Markham Neighborhood table, but I wasn't. I put it there since Paul gave me, but you may want to
Okay,
check.
pull it. If it's marked up, go pull it.
Okay.
Because
You guys really.
And
I
also
think
the
it was
DVDs.
yeah, don't do that either. Don't leave those there either.
I appreciate you check and see if there's anything else that you think should be there. Because I won't know. I'll try. I tried, but I don't know.
And they have to go in and take them out. Yeah, I feel a lot better than I did. This was the first one that put me in the emergency room before they did the procedure. They use a laser and go up inside.
We don't want any details.
Yeah.
I'm just letting know on you.
It's, yeah, it's.
Yes, this one.
Here's the presents.
Don't talk to me for 2 minutes, please.
Oh.
You're looking for much?
It's worth flipping through.
Yeah, I think we're on that. And then, Michael Palmer is on preparedness.
Yeah, he's on the next one? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it hasn't been there lately. We just got, my wife and I just got, spent a 3-day getting, FEMA and certified to keep those boxes. Last few years.
Oh.
This is gonna be a sweater.
Oh, you're stitching.
Keeps my hands busy, but I don't know what's to be or.
Do you have minutes?
No,
Shouldn't I ask? You shouldn't ask.
we'll tell you later.
Judy.
Judy Thomas. Judy's our president of Quail Park.
Oh, you did
We have a bell park issue going on.
Yes, we do, and that's why Judy's here.
Well, I'm here.
Are you parked out there?
Oh, yeah, I'm.
You have any other?
No, I think I'm just on the direction. And I do.
Hello, Renee.
Hey, Renee.
You guys sign in?
No.
It varies. I mean,
Sorry
sometimes
about
it's
that.
8 to 10.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, depending on the issue, it's sometimes more. But we don't have anything big on the agenda.
Very.
Oh, we should grab 2 of these. Do you want one? It's kind of a bang. Oh, Judy, I have taken forever. No, Cindy's at home working tonight. Put my computer back together that I brought home from the office. Yeah, she's getting home from Rockwood, where she volunteers one day a week at the library. What they, yes.
You might want to make Renee.
No, that's a little bit over. Rockwood is not Rockwood is like,
26.
And Michael is.
no, Rockwood is out in East County, towards Gresham. Not Maplewood. No, yeah, Rockwood is out. The Rockwood Library is in the city of, is it in the city of Gresham? It's about Burnside, it's Burn. Yeah. Yeah. She's, yeah, no, yeah, you're right. But no, this is the Rockwood Neighborhood Multnomah County Library out there. She's still thinking all the citizens there. I mean, she's, although not really. I mean, it's funny because she was giving, we met with some we had dinner with Cindy's nephew, who's really almost our age. Cindy's got all these nephews and nieces that are about, they're just a little bit younger than she and I are. So they're helping out. Because
Well, I was personally involved in my first one. Those are my right hands.
3 years younger than me, so I know
Oh,
where
that?
that's coming from.
yeah, and there's a whole group of them like that.
I
And
think it's
So
something
they
that's
didn't stop coming down 26?
he was teasing Leah. He always liked,
Yeah.
when, you know, Cindy was
You got
the head librarian in Central Library.
Right.
One of the judges in Multnomah County. She's doing something entirely different now. Library service. Oh, yeah, she's changed several times. She's had several different jobs. After she was there, one of the big jobs she got into is, I don't know if you go to libraries, but they have RFIDs, scanning your books, and you go right out. She was the one that managed that whole project. And she's on the last few years, she's really working more on transition and getting people that have to take over whatever position has been doing the last few years. I mean, we went to, so, you know, we both have first, because I worked in building one DA's officer. A few years ago, when that was not to church. Well, because what happens were really, for hers, is
rush hour?
Yeah, it's hard to get.
Hey, Michael, you made it.
Slows you down.
I never went back to work for the government. I had enough time in and I left my money for 20 years. And
Make you some,
You know, and to be considered.
when times were good, huh?
current times were good. They put too much money in my account, but
Oh, really?
they did what they did. And it turned out to be fine. But
So the, in order to be.
I was one of those people, they have something called money match. So you have your money in there and it sits and it grows at interest. And then when you retire, if you benefit from money match, the employer that you had has to match that money. And first takes, buys an annuity to pay your pension. Well, after my heart attack, I looked into it a little bit, and I had a friend who used to work for me, but he was an attorney, he gave a lot of people advice about it. And he got talking about all the medical things I was supposed to do, and I didn't care about that, because Cindy had medical insurance and everything. So I just left it alone, and then about a year later, you know, as Leah's tuition began to build up, I thought, yeah, I better go get that money, so we can kind of cover these expenses.
Probably not even like cardio.
If I had, would pass away, obviously, you don't want that to happen. But if you don't get to, only the recipient can take money match. So if you pass away, for the kid, yeah, Cindy would get the money that's in my
No last minute
but she
stuff
wouldn't
there.
be able to get money.
Technology.
I mean, it's twice as
Oh,
much
I know.
money.
It's been wonderful.
So I took, and the only bad thing about it is now, I mean, it's not really a bad thing because I'm not sure I want to go back and work for a government agency. There have been a couple of jobs that popped up in the last 6 months that I kind of thought, for the last couple of weeks, actually, within the last month, thought would be interesting, but I can't go back. If I go back to work for a government agency, I have to pay back what I've received from my pension plus, they start me all over again.
There we are.
But I am looking to take it. I'm Cindy and I debate, or we had a discussion.
I know.
You know, there's halftime.
Well, they're even going to I just had surgery. You started radiation
So
Friday,
I'm trying to find a legit, what Cindy warns me about, and I think
this one didn't bother me so much, but this one, that's,
take
I
halftime.
just know that they were ready for this part, and they had to do that.
Whether they tell you
This question desk is all the way down there, and it does have to be about 40 seconds to send us a minute
Well, I was looking,
It's longer duration, it's a high use. Space is starting to hurt.
if I can find enough other things, if I can get my land,
Okay,
homeowners association,
so
more active, no. I mean,
Jenna,
but it was,
now your
I was
question
kind of
was?
retired early and then well, not that I.
Well, number one, once you check the papers, number two.
No, not,
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what to do.
I retired early, I don't wanna say earlier than I expected because John told me this stuff. I knew it was.
Oh, and
And, you know, Cindy just didn't, and I'm not sure that I want to go out in the office. The overhead would not be any worse than it was, but Cindy wants to take vacations and, you know, especially, yeah, she's at the end. I mean, we went to a HERS counselor to talk about her and she was like something.
Okay.
She's really not.
Just bones and
At
math.
this point, she's worked for the county for 23 years. She's not gonna make 30. Because she'll be at full adult. So it just doesn't hardly make it. I mean, she basically told me that it doesn't mean you would be as well off retiring today.
What about versus math?
But Cindy said, what would I do? She's not all that. She's working too hard. She's working on the transition. She's gonna work to retirement age. And I think I'll try to practice before retirement. I won't very much over. Well, yeah, I can be selective at this point. I just need to work with the guys in the.
All right, Jenna, I gave you too much. Are we ready to start? Hey, remember and get smart? Remember, welcome. How are you? Remember, how many of your people remember Get Smart? Yeah? Yeah?
Date yourself.
Yeah. On Get Smart, remember whenever the chief and Max had to do,
Code of silence.
the code of silence? Did you know that we actually have a code of silence in Portland? We really do. Real life, today standards code of silence. We've given it around at the ECC Center, the Emergency Communication Center on 99th and Bush. For if the big one hits, you know, this is like if you were in Washington D.C., if you take the president, you know, into the room and sitting down in there and all the generals are coming in, you know, and this room, they actually have this room that, you want to put your leg up? Yeah, go ahead. They have this room where it's about the size of a closet, but it's about the size of a bathroom, a public bathroom. And it's all encased in something, communications can't get in and out, you can't hear in there, all that. And when Jeremy showed it to us, he shuts the door, he says, yeah, you can't hear a thing when they're in there talking. FBI can show up and the FBI will go in there and have their private conversation because there's things that we don't need to hear or they don't want us to know about. And so he says, you can't hear it. And he goes in and he shuts the door to demonstrate. And he starts talking. We can hear them. They didn't silent-proof the door. But the ceiling and the floor and the walls are all silent-proofed and radio wave-proof and all that, but the door is not. The door is probably radio-proof and all that. But there really is one of those around. Current day. So welcome to Markham Neighborhood. Kate Conwell just came in, so we need to do a special exception for Kate tonight because she's a mother with 10 children and she has to scoot, but she has something important she needs to tell us. So we'll say hello real quick and we'll do a quick introduction and then we'll approve we'll let Kate have a couple minutes to talk if it's okay with everyone, and then we'll go through the normal process of approving the agenda and so on. So my name's Donna Heron, you all know me. And we'll start with Jenna. Jenna George.
You what?
Jenna George. She's on
Southwest 34th place.
Right.
Deborah.
Stanley.
Oh,
You're on Stanley.
Yeah, I'm on Stanley too.
Head Strangler, I live on 30th.
King here, I live on 30th.
Kate Carline on Primrose.
Jeff Lyon, I'm also on Primrose.
John Gillen, I live on Quail Road.
Judy Thomas and I live in Quail Park.
I'm Renee, I live on Southwest Stanley Court. Mike Reader on 35th.
Okay, so welcome everyone. So let's introduce Kate real quick. She's got an important message for us and information real quick, and then we'll commence with our meeting. So Kate, come on up and share. Same thing that we did last year, so for those of you who remember. Kate, do you want me to pull a website up for you?
You can, yeah, I just know it off the top of my head. You just Google Compassion Clinic Southwest Orland. It will come up.
I will do that for you. So.
Okay. So on May 20th, there's a free medical and dental clinic at Wilson High School. They do this every year. It's an organization called Compassion. They do them all over the city, but the one for the Southwest neighborhood is on May 20th. It's a Saturday at Wilson. So anyone can come get free medical and dental services. It's primarily for low-income people, but anyone can come get their teeth cleaned, get teeth pulled. They don't provide all medical and dental services, but they do provide a lot of things that are necessary, like to treat, diagnose, and like point people in the right direction, and just basic care. The part of it that I'm involved with is the food team. So everyone that comes is also can get a meal. They have breakfast, they have lunch, and then they have snacks throughout the day. And one of the things that we do is smoothies, which is what I'm a part of. The dental people that have attended the dental clinic are big fans of the smoothie bar because a lot of them get teeth pulled. They can't eat the food. So last year I came here and then I posted on Nextdoor too about having a smoothie packing party, and it was a great success. Like I think there was like 6 or 8 people at our house one night that all packed. Like some people donated food for this, there's fruit for the smoothies, and then several people helped me pack the food in the frozen fruit into baggies. So on the day of the event, you just take a baggie, dump it into a blender, add the water, and it's really smooth process. So what I'm asking people for is either donations of frozen fruit or help packing the fruit into frozen bags, or connections of people that can help get these things. There's a whole other side of the food team too. Is the Dave's killer?
Yeah, he's coming late.
Okay.
So if you can hang around for a few minutes.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. Then there's other things that people do as far as the food team. I just do the smoothies because, like she said, I have 2 kids and I coach track, and this all happens in the same time every spring. So this is the part that I help with. So last year we did these 3 smoothies. The Berry Blast, which was a mixture of raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries and yogurt. Then we did a tropical treat, which was strawberries, bananas, mangoes, and orange juice. And then the Hulk, which was mango, banana, and spinach and orange juice. And we're doing 100 baggies of each. So that ends up making about 450 smoothies. Mm-hmm.
What's the hours?
The hours of the clinic, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Is this the right one?
Yeah.
So do I scroll down here? You can use the mouse if you need to.
And this is the basic. That's what, like, if you're interested in what kind of services they provide, this is a good site. It doesn't specifically say anything about the smoothies. It just says there's food provided. And then we kind of divvy it up. There's teams that help with all different pieces of it. There's another part of it that I do where we call around to all the apartments and get the information spread out to people. And there's a team that is all medical professionals. There's social service team, and then they do haircuts. They do there's clothes and books and games and stuff there for people that they can take. So it's a really cool event.
Yeah, so it says on the website here, it's,
And there's some of these over there. I don't know where these are the things we pass out to the apartments. I don't know how these got here, but they're sitting right there.
Do you need book donations?
I think so. Yeah. I am not in charge of that piece, but I'm gonna leave my contact information. If you want to donate books, you can contact me and I can get you in touch with the right person.
So ideally, you'd like to have frozen food.
Frozen fruit donated.
Or volunteers.
Or volunteers.
And/or volunteers.
Yes, volunteers. And we did it last year. We just did it all around our dining room table, and I gotta get in touch with whoever it was that brought these like giant bags that helped me pack like 10 smaller bags, and then we put them in this big bag, and it went really smoothly because there was like 6 or 8 of us. I think that's about all we need is 6 or 8, and me and my husband, so like 4 to 6 other people, because with more than that, we don't have the space in my head. I don't own a restaurant; it's just at my house. So, but yeah, the year before that, one lady did it all by herself. So, yeah, I don't know how she did that. It took like an hour to 2 hours, and it was really fun. We got to know some other people, and that were all in this name. Like, I don't know if they were Markham particularly because I posted on Nextdoor, but they were close to here. So.
Yeah, if you
Is
want to
there
learn
many
about what you can do or how you can do these donations volunteering, do you go to a site
Yes,
or?
this website, compassionsouthwest.org, there's all the different ways you can volunteer. So I think where it says volunteer info, then those are the different ways.
Cool, thank you.
want to click on something here?
Uh,
You want the mouse?
I haven't navigated the website this year actually. Last year there was a way that you could see all the
Yeah, I remember that. There's a big
different
old
ways you could be
Yes.
involved.
So the website for that is compassionsw.org.
And I'm gonna leave. I just print really official contact info for myself. Kate Conwell, aka Compassion Clinic Smoothie Queen. I made myself. I self-designated. I don't know how official that is.
You said you coach track?
Yes. No, at Lake Oswego.
I like to speak which one.
I coach football at Lake Oswego High School.
High
Yes.
school?
High school. Yep.
Football?
Pole vault.
Oh,
I was a pole vaulter at UW, so that's why. Sorry to anyone that is not a Husky fan, but the dog.
Most of the years
Eastern.
that you get to be
West
the
one.
Ducks.
And Gonzaga.
Yeah. My sister went to Gonzaga, so we're a Washington family. But I grew up in Portland. I went to Grand High School.
Cool.
Quick question. You pole vaulted?
I pole vaulted in high school, and then in college, and then for a couple years after college. So. Yeah. They have a really good pole vault program at the University of Washington. Several national champions. The current American record holder for the team was on the team with me. So. Yeah.
Right there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Kate.
That has nothing to do with Compassion Southwest. But that's me, if you want to know more about me.
Yeah, she just borrowed a pair of cowboy boots.
My kids each had one on before I came here. Each wearing one.
Trying to do it.
They thought they looked cool.
She needed a pair of cowboy boots. She got on next door. She's
Yes.
gonna learn line dancing. So she needed. I said, "Come on over. I got a pair for you."
Yeah, you can get anything you want on that website. I think that's what's so great about it. Like, I don't know. I love that part of it. Like, hey, I'm looking for this. Hey, I have this. And it all like works itself around.
Just as long as you don't have it send you emails.
Have what?
Have it send you the emails.
Oh.
Turn that off. Okay, thank you, Kate, very much. So let's get going with our meeting. And first up is the agenda approval. So if you'd like to take a look at the agenda, I do have I have at least one addition to the agenda. It's related to an ADU. John, do you have that on yours? On your program? In your program?
Yeah, I'll talk about it but I haven't seen anything other than
That
your
initial?
email to the
person?
person.
Okay, so,
But, yeah,
okay, so, I
You
don't
have
have
the
anything
address?
other than the email either. Yeah, I do have the address. I'll pull it for you. So we don't need to add it in on the agenda then.
I'll just
And that
talk to
person's not here, so.
Okay.
So if there's anything else anyone would like to have added to the agenda or changed on the existing. Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda and John,
So
given.
moved.
Okay, so John, moved to accept the agenda and
Seconded.
Jenna seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so Kim, when Eric shows up, he's showing up late, Kate needs to talk with him. So if you could make an introduction
Of course.
and go. So, next on the agenda is the minutes approval. And our secretary pro tem, who is also our vice president, as well as the president, were in a FEMA training for the weekend. From Wednesday through basically last night, we have been preoccupied and busy because we just became new trainers for FEMA for the NET program. So there is no meeting minutes this month. You'll have to look at the video online and give us your forgiveness, and we will provide both this month's and last month's next month if that's acceptable to everyone. I mean, it has to be, right?
That's the way it's gonna work.
It's just,
That's the way it's gonna work.
the only motion that we did make was the motion to have an encroachment violation investigated by the city. And so I went forward with that. So, and we, that was the only motion. So that would have been the critical part of the minutes. So, it's at 30th and Wilbard for the right of way that's from Wilbard to Hubert, which we'll talk about later. Okay. So that would be the critical part of the minutes step. Okay. So, next up is the treasury report. If you flip your agenda over and you'll see we have some funds in our account. So far, thanks to Bottle Drop and Fred Meyer Rewards. So thank you for those of you who are participating in the rewards program and designated Markham to get matching amounts for the amount of shopping that you get or the rewards that you get on your reward card. So we've built it up to $1,200 now since our last event last summer for the movies in the park. We'll need about $950 this year for the movies in the park this year on July 9th. So we're on track to have that and have some extra leftovers the way things are going. We have some Bottle Drop money still to transfer over. And the Fred Meyer Rewards will come in this month from the first quarter, so we should be getting that anytime, as well as the Bottle Drop money. We'll get another Fred Meyer Rewards after June, so it'll be sometime in July. So we should be able to meet our bills. At this point, I'm speaking for Zahara because Zahara is absent tonight. So, are there any questions on the treasury? Basically, nothing's been spent. So the treasury's just getting its trickle amounts in. For those of you who drop off bottles at our driveway, thank you very much. John?
Oh, on the Bottle Drop is the place where we have to drop off the place in Tiger.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's all
We're done
like
this
King
drive.
City. It's Canterbury.
Yeah.
Is that the intersection? Yeah.
Yes, Canterbury.
It's kind of down below the road. So yeah, you drop them off there, and I have bags that are pre-labeled. They pre-print these labels that on them, and they have the Markham Neighborhood nonprofit number on it.
Okay.
And you can give the blue bags. You can drop unlimited. There's a thing that you pull down and in the back, and you just hold up one of the bags and reads that barcode, and it unlocks the thing and pulls down, and you just put them in there. Unlimited amount of bags. If you have the green ones, which are for personal accounts, you can only drop 2 a day in that thing. Otherwise, you go to the front of the building and go in the normal glass doors, and you get to feed the machines, which is much cleaner than what the stores are. But as a service, for thanking, thank you very much, give us the bottles, we're more than happy to drive them out there. Just drove 8 of them last week out. So If anyone likes bags, would like to have a stockpile of bags, let me know and I'll drop them by your house. Or you can come get them, your choice. I have some in the garbage can in the driveway. For those people that do drop bags, they take the lid off that little, this plastic garbage can, and they're in there. They just grab them out too. So if I'm not home, you can just grab them out of there too. But you have to know that they're in there. Otherwise, you're not going to lift that lid up to see. Okay, any other questions on Treasury report? All right, so we'll go to our committee reports. Amanda sent me an email right before we got here. She will not be here. She sent me her report, so I'll be giving that for her. But up first is Jeff for transportation.
Yeah, so actually, I don't have a whole lot to report. Yes, first of all, regarding Southwest 19th, well, they've been marking all the underground utilities and clearing the brush and cutting down the trees and all that stuff, getting ready. But I don't know, do you have an update on the contractor, whether we got approved or?
The contractor bid, they did get a contractor, he was the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
He or she, it's a minority one, and also the Peapod is waiting for them to turn in their insurance forms. There's some prerequisites to starting the work. But what they're doing in the meantime, while they're waiting for all the approval of these prerequisite forms, you know, like insurance, is Peapod is pre-trimming shrubs and bushes, and they're clearing basically in preparation for the project to begin. So it should be beginning here pretty soon, like a couple of months, a month maybe. But you know, it's just they haven't given me any word, and I hound them like crazy right before our meeting. So one last try, and I couldn't get anything. Well, they had a thing downtown today, a big fire, so they were hard to reach.
So anyways, we're seeing progress now.
I don't, maybe, I don't have time to come to this. I've been trying to follow up this stuff, but do you know when they start, like what the plans for those of us like you who live on the other side of it, like are we gonna still, will there be any issue like accessing our house?
You should have gotten something mailed to your house.
I didn't, I don't remember if it was that specifically.
Yeah, I haven't actually, I haven't seen anything about that. I don't suspect that, you know, they're not going to stop you from leaving your house. Obviously, there's going to be some people working in the area, so there might be some delays and that type of thing. But yeah, they're not going to.
They're not gonna drop your access to 7 feet down.
No.
No, I don't mean like permanently,
Right.
or like, you know, one
Disrupt.
day. Is that something they would let us know, like, oh, we're gonna be here, you know?
You know, that's a good question. We'll have to follow up on that. I assume that they'll be just, you know, 5 years or whatever, like normal construction. They will be laying drain pipes down first, and then building the rain garden, and then paving. So it'll be, when they get started on it, it's probably going to be a few months of work. So there'll be some disruptions. Other than that, the transportation committee focused on the LTIC, and actually John could probably explain this better than I can, but LTIC is the local transportation infrastructure charge, and it's a change in the way that the Bureau of Development Services charges for new construction. So it used to be basically you either had to do the full build out with sidewalks and everything else, you know, along with that, or you could get a waiver of remonstrance, which meant that, and like I said, John can explain this better than I can, but basically the developers don't have to do it, but if the city ever decides to go ahead and implement these things, and the people that own the house now have to pay for it. So that kind of ended up in a situation where we have these sidewalks nowhere, you know, you got like 500 feet of sidewalk and then nothing, and or in reality, just nothing. And so what they decided to do was to actually give the developers a choice. You can either build it out to current code, or we'll collect the fees that would be commensurate with this development. And they put these fees into a bucket to be decided how to spend them later. And so, which I think is a good thing because, you know, you don't, instead of getting the sidewalk to nowhere, now we've got this pool of money, it's like, well, we can pave all the permits or whatever it is, you know, like, this is an example, we can finish this street as one complete comprehensive system, which actually makes more sense. But, so they started doing this system, developers don't really like paying the fee, but, you know, they have the option to build. They can still build the infrastructure today and not pay the fee. But city council hasn't decided how to spend the money yet. And that's kind of the discussion right now. And the way it seems like they're leaning is like, well, we want to take all the unimproved streets, or, you know, prioritize them and pave them and build them out and make a complete street out of these. And the focus is really on neighborhood streets and not like going back to arterials like Barber would include, because it's not city Portland, but let's say Multnomah, you know, like big streets, the funds would be applicable to those. It would be streets like Primrose and Orchid and Marigold, that type of thing that, you know, are the.
Is it dedicated to sidewalks?
It's no, it could be, it would be like theoretically paving for roads. So that's where it's at right now, and city council hasn't decided how to spend the money yet, and that's kind of the discussion, and you can comment on this right now. It's called the neighborhood, what is it, John?
LTIC.
Well, LTIC is the fund, but it's Neighborhood Streets Program.
Maybe. I have not, I've been kind of out of some of this, but because you're giving us information that I haven't got, because I've been down for the last couple of months.
Okay. It's actually called the Neighborhood Street Program.
Yeah.
And you can just Google that, and go to the website, and then, you know, write your comments. Or if you have comments now, of course, I can take them back to the committee.
How is that being received at the transportation part?
Well,
Because, you know, realistically, there are some people that have been involved in the transportation committee for a long time that wanted to get that money and move it over to collectors and arterials, which I've had some problems with.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
where the city's going pleases me, but.
yeah. So, right, you know, Marianne Fitzgerald is very involved in this, as she is with a lot of, she's a fantastic resource. But her belief is that the fund should really be, that the big streets are the ones that we need to focus on, and not the neighborhood streets. And she would like to see these funds going towards improving Capitol Highway and Twilliger or whatever, stuff like that. And she's the most vocal on it. And the most involved.
Marianne Fitzgerald, she was president of Sweeney for a long time and been involved in transportation stuff for a lot of years. And I that's one of those things. I really respect Marianne and I understand her opinion, and it is a fair ask because the city of Portland doesn't have enough money to do all the things it needs to do. But this is money that, I mean, you kind of got to look through it. This is money that would be used to
improve the street.
Improve the local streets, and I'm really glad to hear that they're thinking about doing the neighborhood streets because, you know, the neighborhood streets, it's like the project they're doing on 19th. That's the kind of project I think would be maybe best funded out of this. And I mean, there's some stormwater components to a lot of those unpaved streets, and there's really some, in East Portland, there's really some neighborhood livability issues that are probably greater than ours, although we've got some real livability issues created on some of our neighborhood streets by being, well, I mean, Southwest Porcelain Southwest Portland is by and large more livable than some of the east side, obviously. But unpaved streets that look like craters of the moon are not good in any area.
And I agree with John, because, if you think about, like, well, the option is either you build out the house and put the sidewalks and pave the street in front of your house, or you pay into this fund. Well, I mean, the whole purpose of it is to develop the street that you're building a house on.
Right.
So why should we go to capital highway?
I don't disagree with that.
Are they doing anything about the swimming pool that occurs on the underpass in the way into our neighborhood when it rains?
On 19th or?
No, is it Taylor's Ferry? It's the street that goes into our neighborhood, the underpass, it's like.
26.
26, you can't
Yeah.
get through it.
I'll talk about
Yeah, long term, yes. Short term, probably not. So, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Next up is schools, and I have to pull up Amanda's email for that. Markham, Ernie. There we go. There we go. Okay, so this is what Amanda says. Apologies for the short notice. Here's schools committee update to share with folks. Well, that made it a whole lot better, didn't it? Update to share with folks from our March 16th meeting. We're continuing to meet with all schools principals in the southwest boundary to better understand how the schools committee can support them. We will compile this info and use it to help guide the workplace. There's a Portland Public Schools $790 million construction bond going on the May ballot. Although construction is prioritized for schools on the east side, many schools will benefit with minor safety upgrades, including Stevenson and other schools in Southwest. Safe routes to school in the Wilson Cluster public meeting with PBOT on April 25th at Jackson. Jeff Monahan might know the time. Put you on the spot now, didn't she?
Yeah.
And we have added an April Schools Committee meeting on April 20th. No bylaws update, and please remind folks that the position will be available at the next election. Amanda's retiring.
Yeah.
So she's done a great job too, but she's a mom and she's quite busy. So I've got the Safe Routes to School on April 25th flyer right here, and I put it over there on the table. So I'm bailing you out, Jeff.
Okay, thank you.
It's drop-in, pardon me?
I didn't know the answer to that.
I got you covered.
When?
April 25th, drop in between 6 and 8 p.m. I think it's right before the board meeting. Yeah, the Sweeney board meeting, which is a topic that I do need to discuss because.
No, that is at Jackson.
Yeah, it's here. Never mind. I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking about the PBOT one.
No, the BES.
The BES one, okay, yeah.
I'll talk about that.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm getting them confused.
Yeah.
So April 25th, back up, rewind, 6 to 8 p.m. for those of you who are interested. There's a little square piece of paper over there for you. All right, any questions to Amanda? Good, because I can't answer them. All right, up next is the public safety report from Kim Herron. It just turns out, well, I guess, Mike, you could have given it, because the arrangement is that Phil Ford attends the public safety meeting, which I chair, and as the quote interim, and then he hands the notes off to Mike, but Mike was out of town and he just flew in from Seattle today, and so Kim was on standby to give them. So, do you want to give them?
Well, I haven't seen them, so you know what you're talking about.
Okay, all right.
That is debatable.
But Mike's also on the net team too. So, I mean, these guys are well in communication.
So Phil Ford gave me his notes. Next time I'll ask him to type his notes. So the police began the meeting with the announcement they've closed 2 drug houses. within Southwest Portland. They did not give the addresses, but they had been under surveillance and supervision for some time. They were successful at not only getting them closed and vacated, but also contacting the owner of the homes. Oftentimes the home's been foreclosed on, and then it goes back to the lender, which could be a bank or a large organization. It takes quite a bit of time in order to work the maze to get the house actually foreclosed on and then boarded up. So that was good news. The police also reported an uptick in burglaries and property crimes in Southwest Portland. The year-over-year statistics seem to point to an increase, which is somewhat logical as we have had an increase in homeless population over the last couple of years due to a plethora of different factors, from high rental prices to lack of affordable housing to just Portland is still a very popular place to live. People keep moving here and there's not enough affordable housing. In addition to other socioeconomic issues. But the bottom line is to be sure your home is locked, be sure your car is locked. It's the biggest prevention. In addition, knowing your neighbors, like a neighborhood watch, or just going and knocking on their doors to let them know if you're going to be out of town, you trust them to have them watch your home. Many areas in Southwest Portland are not well lit. Our street is quite dark. I know there's a couple of you from Primrose. I don't know if there's a street light on Primrose or not. Okay, maybe one on the whole street, but it can be pretty dark in there as well. So if you have, if you have a neighbor, if you have a light that marks your property and it's not on or has a dim bulb, light it up. The other thing they suggested is surveillance. Some people have, they say a camera, even a false camera, meaning a camera that doesn't record anything but looks like it does, is a deterrent. So to be vigilant about that. It's not a huge increase, but it's somewhat of an increase. The next item that was covered in that meeting, the marijuana representatives from, I don't know the name.
Office of Neighborhood Involvement Cannabis Program.
So the weed people, as I call them.
Yeah, that's in their phone number.
And they kind of gave us an outline. There's enforcement and compliance issues with the marijuana retail outlets and the medical marijuana outlets that have been there for a long time. And due to kind of how things are priced and to the growth in the number of and availability of marijuana, especially along Barber Boulevard, we're seeing a decrease in the number of licensed medical marijuana facilities and an increase in just it's here for everybody. As I recall, the boundary that it needs to be 1,000 feet, not yards, but 1,000 feet from any school or elementary school or things like that is still in effect. They're not seeing a lot of problems with it, but just know that it's there and it's legal in Oregon, regardless of your personal opinion. Don, do you have anything else to add from what they talked about on the marijuana folks? I know you were also conducting the meeting.
No.
Portland Fire Bureau will conduct a CPR class for Southwest neighborhoods. There's more information to follow about that. I know that for the Markham Net group, we are asking for a CPR training class
Well, we're asking for two. Public Safety is asking to host one. Gerard Pissah, captain at Station 18, is getting an EMT to teach that, and that'll be open to anybody in the community at the Multnomah Arts Center. We just don't have a date yet. And the second one that we're requesting is through the NET team, where we're asking for training, a CPR training to update anyone who's not current on their CPR. That any NET member will be able to come to that and get theirs. So 2 different ones. Pat?
You could probably contact Cascade Training and get certified as a CPR instructor, and then you wouldn't have to be dependent on other people to teach the class.
It costs money. And how
I'm
much
not
time?
sure. It's not that much. It's under $100.
How much
What was the
time?
name of the organization?
Cascade Training.
Cascade Training.
Yeah, they teach instructors to teach CPR, and I know it from the medical part. I don't know about lay people, but it's worth a try. I used to be an instructor, but that's too much hassle, so I let it lapse. I just have my regular CPR.
Why don't you renew? For the benefit of the community,
No,
right?
too much hassle.
You can sign up for a number of classes.
Okay, if anybody knows anyone who's qualified to do the training, please let me know. Because it really, last year we, Public Safety did it. Marcel Rodriguez from Arnold Creek came and did it for us, and he did a really great job. And we filled the class up real fast. So
You charge money for it.
Marcel only charged $4, which is his cost for the card. Everyone paid $4 for it. Now, if you were to pay for it on one of these places where you can go pay and take the classes, it can be up to $100. Yeah, and I've seen them as low as $40 a person. But and you get the CPR. It's for you get it for adults and for children. And you get the AED, the automatic electronic defibrillator, the ones that are on the walls. Which if anybody doesn't have it already on their phone, Pulse Point. It's an app, and it will show you where the closest AED is to your location. It's called Pulse Point. It also shows you when you hear the trucks going, the fire engines. It shows you where they're going, where the incidents are. And it keeps a pretty good record for like 24 hours. It's amazing how many show up. It also has a section in there to walk you through the steps of CPR if you need to, and if you are CPR qualified, you can check a little box there, and if someone needs CPR, they call 911 and they need CPR, and I've had it happen to me before, your phone will go off to let you know, and you just tap on it and it shows you, hey, very next street, there's someone that needs CPR right now, and you could beat the fire truck there and get that started for them, and then once they get there, they take over. So you can help save a neighbor. Pulse Point, that's the name of the app.
Pulse?
P-U-L-S-E, Pulse Point.
Pulse Point. For Jan doesn't know which way to point the camera.
It's all over the country too. You put in your city.
Thank you.
I know someone that teaches whatever that, what she said, what was it?
CPR?
Yeah, the same organization.
Cascade Training.
Yes,
Cascade Training.
super, is the best CPR I've taken.
They're
Usually that
really
class is
good.
really boring.
Would you mind
I'll
getting that information to me, and
Yeah, I have-
I'll get it
he's
to the
another-
neighborhood president.
football coach, so I won't know it until I see him I can try to get it before I see him.
That'd be
It
great.
was one of the hot items at our event last summer too. We had American Medical Response Ambulance on the field, and they had a mannequin dummy thing there, and the kids were just having a ball, and they didn't realize how hard you have to push on an adult body to make that mannequin animate for them, and they didn't require the breasts. It's no longer required to do breasts for anybody who's interested. You can give heart compressions to someone for 10 minutes, and the amount of oxygen they already have in their bloodstream will sustain their brain that long without having to give them rescue breaths. So you just have to know how to do compressions.
Actually, I'll see him tomorrow.
Okay.
I think he's at tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll ask also if you'd be interested or willing to. Really?
See if I can get you a
The
picture.
next item on the public safety meeting was a presentation made by by Jenny Poulin, who is the crime prevention coordinator for the Portland Police Bureau. She put forth an idea in front of the public safety committee that currently it meets every month, and her office is willing to, or promoting backing that down to every other month and having her program where the officers actually come to the meeting, the public comes in, and you have like a discussion powwow with issues or things that are going on, right or wrong, within your neighborhood. It's more of a sit-down seminar, give and take. And she's presenting this all across the city to the 95 Portland neighborhoods. It was not, there was no motion on it, there was no movement on it, but it was brought up by Jenny. She's a nice lady, but you know, she asked us to bring that to our neighborhood meetings, solicit any feedback that you might have about that.
And we have to vote
And
next time. So we're supposed to take their vote to the meeting.
It's what thing? I'm sorry, I kind of zoned out there.
so Jenny Poland, you know who she is,
Crime prevention coordinator.
Right.
came to public safety meeting to talk about,
It's a format they use in other neighborhoods,
I'll have to let you explain.
northeast, southeast, North Portland. And it's like a round table of police officers and community, and they all come together. It's not a presentation style, it's a round table, and people will come in and talk about their concerns about the crime and any police issues, and they converse about it. And Jenny is suggesting that we do it in the Public Safety Committee every other month. So public safety meetings will be cut down to half during the year to accommodate the community's need to be able to interface with the police department. Every public safety meeting though, sorry, I'm commandeering it, but I'm the chair. Every public safety meeting has a police officer or more at the meeting. We have Portland Police and the Sheriff's Department, usually Deputy Darren Tabor there. And we have been having the sergeant and the NRT, Sergeant, so you had Nate Buller and Jason Graff,
Sergeant Bowler is
as well as Scott Foster, Officer Scott Foster. We've had 3 officers, and then we get the deputy there, and they come to the meeting, and when they show up, I do what I did with Kate tonight. I let them have the floor immediately so that if they get called away, they can go. And Scott basically did get called during our meeting, and you know, he listened to his ear and he says, sorry people, I gotta go. But they will answer questions and they'll let us know what our crime rates are currently, and then leave. And it, you know, they take anywhere from 5 minutes to what they take 25 minutes the month before. Yeah, so basically, you know, I had to scramble with the rest of the meeting but people had questions, and I thought that was important to let them have their questions. And so Jenny's suggesting then that we should do it every other month. I don't know if Southwest has the crime rate and the need for that much interaction with the police department, but it's not my decision to make, it's the committee's. And actually each committee person that's representing a neighborhood at the public safety meeting goes to their neighborhood, which just happens to be us, the same exact people. And we have to get the vote. I've already gotten other votes from other neighborhoods through emails stating what they're going to vote. And I'm not telling you what it is because you need to make your own decision. Would you attend a meeting every other month at the Multnomah Arts Center to be able to have a conversation with the police bureau?
Would it not be asking the neighborhood whether they would endorse cutting public safety back to 6 meetings a year, 12, and doing that, having her program go forward, or to leave it as is?
To leave the public safety meetings the way they are, and nobody asked the question, and as you know, when you're facilitating a meeting, you can't interject that stuff.
Well,
So,
and I didn't
but
facilitate.
the question would be, well, why don't they just have another meeting every other month? Their own meeting. John?
Yes,
Yeah, well, part of the issue there is, you know, Sweetie pays for the meetings at the max. And I don't know if we have that much, you know, that's a budget issue.
That's a
If
budget
we added another meeting, and I don't want people to take this wrong, but I understand what they're doing, and they're certainly focusing in on police, community communications in other parts of the city is really important. I mean, everybody's aware of that. I'm not sure that in Southwest we have the same dynamic in terms of dealing with the community and the police
Well,
that we have in other parts of the city. It sounds like it's a good program, and maybe we should do it once or twice a year, but, you know, we've got other issues in terms of public safety, as the windstorm last week and the snow the month before, and a whole bunch of other things
Okay.
demonstrate, so.
well, as Donna is the chair of the Public Safety Committee, she
Yeah.
can explain. I'm not the chair.
Yeah.
I attended as a guest.
Yeah.
And not even as a voting member of this neighborhood, because Jenna, Phil Ford took that role.
Right.
So I can stand up here and give an opinion.
Yeah.
Right? So, my opinion, for what it's worth, is I agree with you. There are other issues in the city. And the public safety right now, in meeting every month, is accomplishing a lot of things. While crime is a component of public safety, it's a bigger component of other parts of the town. And I personally would say I'm not for it. I like the format that we're currently using, the momentum we're currently generating. And maybe if she wants to do a one-off or two-off meeting, special meetings a year for Southwest Neighborhoods Inc., I might endorse that. But as a member, that doesn't make zero difference here. I would vote against a motion to change to come back from this neighborhood to say, we endorse cutting the public safety meetings back to 6 a year. That's my 2 cents worth.
And at the public safety meeting, I change the format from just committee meeting and talking about things. I alternate, I open it up to anybody in the community. They don't have to just be representing a neighborhood in a public safety position. And so every other month, it's either an emergency preparedness presentation or it's a safety, like crime prevention presentation. And the community has been coming. We've gotten up to over 50 people in that meeting, which means it's serving the community. They're interested. John?
We're not gonna vote this.
Well, they're gonna ask me for a vote at public safety, come.
I don't think it requires correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that it requires a motion out of this neighborhood, but we could certainly come back with the representative for public safety at the next meeting for this neighborhood. That may be me, it may be Jenna, it may be Phil Ford, could come back and say, yes, we discussed it and we are opposed to it.
If we need to vote, I move that. I think it's a good idea. I think your suggestion of maybe once or twice a year, I think I kind of said the same thing. It might be something that's doable for Sweeney and probably all that's really needed in our neighborhood. But let's see what the other neighborhoods say too.
Well, I don't want to tell you what they're saying because I don't want to influence you.
No.
I'm jumping out of one seat.
Sure, no.
So, if this neighborhood wants to make a vote, yes, then then whoever's representing Markham, because I'm trying.
Make a motion, I'll second it.
But if you say no, and then when the discussion phase comes up, someone can ask for an amendment saying maybe twice a year, or whatever. You can ask for those things, and you know how it goes when the motion's made and there's discussion.
My motion would be that we respectfully thank them for their suggestion, but that we think that it should be limited to a couple of special meetings a year, and we'll work with Sweeney to see if that can be organized.
I would second that one.
Okay, so Kim seconds. And is there any additional discussion on it? Mike, Renee, Judy?
I think one of
Is that
these might be beneficial to have October, November, December, when crime goes up, with still like Christmas packages. That's my opinion.
So that could be one time of the year or
One time
something
of
like
the
that. Yeah. What's Jeff? Kate? No. Jeff?
What?
You have anything to say before we call for a vote?
At least twice a year.
Okay, at least twice a year? Okay.
I don't know.
So the Markham chair will ask for an amendment to the motion, or try to amend the motion. Okay. All right. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Jenna abstains, so The motion carries then. Thank you, Jenna. Always remember, if you don't feel comfortable, stay. So she's learning the process. So, okay, we'll just get him in touch with you later, okay? Thank you, okay, so Kim, is that your report? Have fun with the line dancing.
I will let you know.
You come back and teach us one.
Well, I did not anticipate you being up here this long. The public safety meeting concluded with a amazing presentation about Markham Neighborhood that was presented by Donna Farah.
Oh.
And I'll report more on that next month.
Okay, so up next is, we don't have a parks report. So I can say a couple issues about parks, but it could also come in down below, so
Okay,
we go to you.
let's do this. I'll apologize, I missed a couple of months. I had medical issues and I'm much better now. And the first thing I will do is I will wear my Sweeney Vice President hat for just 1 second to tell you that the first Saturday in May at the Christian Center on Shattuck, is it Shattuck Road, right? At the 30th, just north of north of Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, we're going to have our Southwest cleanup, spring cleanup for Sweeney. No yard debris
this year, remember?
No yard debris this year. And that was the point I wanted to make. In the past, we've taken yard debris, but Metro and the city have changed their approach on yard debris, and they want people to put it in their green bins and have it picked up weekly as much as possible, and then make a trip to the transfer station or someplace else, because the yard debris, if yard debris comes in, we're going to be turning it away this year. So the only things we're going to take are bulky waste, metal, there'll be a recycler there, and reusable donatables. There will be a truck there to do basically Goodwill stuff, but no yard debris, because we had to pay for it the last couple of years, and Metro funds this, and they don't even want us to pay for it and bring it in. So, sorry about that. It's terrible. Yeah.
It's at the intersection of 30th
and Dosh Road. 30th and Dosh. It's kind of like 25th and Lancaster.
And it's called the Portland Christian Center.
Yeah, the Portland Christian Center, the first Saturday in May. Okay, so.
Electronics?
No.
And then they don't take,
That's probably PCC, and there might be no, it's already happened.
there's the drug thing coming up too.
Yeah.
But, okay.
This is just the one I wanted to bring to people's attention. Then I'm going to go, let's see, you list me as Sweeney First Vice President, Watershed. That was what Donna and I were kind of talking about. On the April 26th at 6 o'clock, maybe it starts at 5 and goes, it starts at 5 and goes to 7. The Bureau of Environmental Services is going to have a presentation, talk with the people about watershed problems in Southwest Portland. They'll show what the new projects are. That's going to be at the Multnomah Arts Center. I'm aware of the problem you mentioned about at 26th. I'll certainly talk to them then. I don't know if we'll get to them before then. Obviously, we've got a problem at 26th as a result, I guess as a result of the changes they made to put in the water features there. The thing you need to understand about those water features, that's actually ODOT's facility. ODOT took the water off the freeway and Barber Boulevard that wasn't coming off there as quick and moved it into that facility. With the end result, it looks like we're getting 26 turned into a de facto water, 5:30 to 7:30. So it is just, well, it's continues on even a little bit after the board meeting starts. But please attend that. Please tell them about that. There's a couple other issues that I've noticed with this wet year in the neighborhood. We've got a few manholes that are weeping for long periods of time. And I don't know if people understand, but when our manholes are weeping, that means that they're really sad. And when water's bubbling out of our manholes or weeping around the edges, that our manholes are not storm sewer manholes. They're sanitary sewer manholes that are getting infused with water from the neighborhood. I mean, what happens is as we get this much rain, we have infiltration into our sanitary sewers. And if you see a manhole leaking, Judy and I have talked about it. There's one on Huber that we're well aware of that has been leaking for the last few months. And that's a sanitary sewer that's probably got more rainwater in it than sanitary water in it. But it's weeping because the rainwater's infiltrating and it's bubbling out a really nice mix. So if you see it, report them.
Does it smell?
You won't notice it much because it usually happens in the middle of a rainstorm, you know. So there's probably a lot of dilution going on, but still the city should know about where those problems are.
John, is it east or west at the entrance to Quail Park from Huber?
It's west of the entrance to Quail Park. That's about 31st or 32nd, going up the hill there. So that's my other thing about watershed. I haven't attended the watershed committee or the watershed committee for the last couple of months because of my medical problem. But I do know that they've been talking about this issue. They've been talking about some other issues related to a development over in Brighton Mile that you may have seen some newspaper coverage on, where 11 homes are being proposed in an area where there's some limitations on water drainage. So
this is PES.
yeah.
But aren't the sewers from water?
No, the sewers and storm sewers are Bureau of Environmental Services. Water Bureau only handles potable water, the water lines only. So these are the people we need to communicate to them about this infiltration, and they call it I&I, and I can't remember what the other one is, but it's basically that in our part of Portland that our sanitary sewer lines pick up water when we get a lot of, obviously we've had a lot of rain this year, and we're probably going to see more of it than we usually would, but that's what's going on. Now I'll hit the land use stuff real quickly. Overall, an appeal was approved. Sweeney supported an appeal by the Multnomah neighborhood to the Land Conservation and Development Commission, complaining about the way the city adopted the residential infill policies in the last comprehensive plan, where they basically said that they wanted to increase densities within 1/4 of a mile from Barber. And we've talked about that as it affects the Methodist Church property that is sort of in that 1/4 mile. And in the wonderful world of Metro and the Bureau of Planning and the City of Portland just got a $100,000 grant from Metro to study increasing densities within a half mile of Barber. A half a mile of Barber Boulevard. And it's because of the next thing I'll talk about, which is the light rail. Metro wants to increase densities within a half mile of light rail. So they're going to give Bureau of Planning money to study how they're going to do that. So, I mean, you know, we'll just have to see how this plays out. It's gonna be it's a study only, it's only $100,000. I don't know where that gets us to. Then I will tell you that I finally was able to attend one of the Southwest Corridor DEIS Citizens Advisory Committee meetings, the first of this month. The Barber concept plan was discussed. And I think the big takeaway from that is there are 4 alternatives being considered for the light rail along Barber Boulevard in what they call the historic section, which is from basically Fulton Park area to 53rd. All of the plans that they're proposes a parking structure at Southwest 53rd, which is the red light district down at the halfway down the hill. Yeah, Pomona and 53rd come out and go on to Barber there. A parking structure there of 950 cars. And at the Barber Transit Center, a parking structure for 750 cars. All of the plans for the light rail include that. The big differences is there's one alternative that shifts the light rail off Barber Boulevard next to the freeway. There's one and two of the other alternatives are basically, and it's basically how the light rail will cross at what we call the crossroads where Capitol and Barber and the freeway all meet. One of them is there'll have to be a structure that drops it down and then puts it next to the freeway on down to 53rd, but it will run up to Barber till there. And to get over onto that structure, they'll have to put in a new, different light at the parking structure. The other one would just take it directly across the crossroads, basically on the streets that are there, but there will be a new structure built to carry the light rail and the road, because none of the structures along Barber at Multnomah Boulevard, none of the structures along Barber will be adequate to hold the light rail if it's built and put on Barber. They'll have to rebuild all those as part of it. Now, the last of the 4 is the one that will probably have the biggest impact on the neighborhood, because there's a proposal being considered that will bring the light rail off of Barber at 26th and drop it down to hit the freeway there and run up.
On the south side of Barber.
Yeah. It looks like
Paralleling 26th Avenue past the off ramp and then on
it basically looks like the 26th place that takes people going north up onto Barber Boulevard. I don't know whether it's going to be removed or it's going to be paralleled by the train, but it comes off of Barber there and goes down and through the stormwater area that we were just talking about and follows the freeway then all the way on up. That's the 4th alternative in that area. So those are what is going to be studied in the DEIS at this point. So, I mean, there's months of study yet to go, and we'll just have to see how it develops. I think that the point was made that the preference that Sweeney has proposed up to date is to use Barber as far as Barber can be used, because that creates more area for development on both sides of Barber, upgrades and hopefully more residents close to Barber rather than farther away. And we'll just have to see. The story that we're getting from Metro is I think Metro, it's cheaper to build next to the freeway. They feel it would be cheaper to build next to the freeway. I guess eliminate some businesses and make that change because they won't spend any money on Barber then. And, you know, that's different than, well.
Will the on-ramp on I-5 remain southbound?
That's probably gonna be discussed. I don't think they'll remove it, but I haven't been at all three of the meetings to hear that discussion for sure. There'll be some big changes at the crossroads regardless. Okay, so local neighborhood stuff. Donna mentioned we got notice that a permit has been applied for to build an alternate dwelling unit, auxiliary dwelling unit at 3411 Southwest Lurydale. It's a big lot property just on the north side of Lurydale, a couple of houses in, three houses in. You know, it's not a land use approval, but they have to give notice, and they give you 35 days notice of the application. It's limited. It can't be more than 800 square feet for an alternate dwelling, 825 square feet for an alternate dwelling unit. And if the house is smaller than I want to say it can't be more than 825 square feet or half the size of the structure already on the site. But don't quote me on that, it may be 25%. So there are smaller alternate dwelling units. We have one other application somewhere in the process. I don't know if permits, don't think the permit's been applied for on Hubert. There's another property that applied for that. The other thing that I will tell you is we had a gentleman here a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, I'm sorry, that was applying for a flag lot at 10,015 Southwest 25th. He has now applied for the permits to build that house. The approval's been given by the city. So that will be a house behind the existing house on a flag lot there.
John, I'm a little concerned about that lot because it's down in a gully. I went up and looked.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, there's
it's
water
gonna
issues.
drain right down into us.
Yeah, there's water issues that exist there, but the city, single family homes get to be built on the basis of a single water management system that for the entire city that says that you can control stormwater by putting it into a facility on site. And we know that doesn't work very well in Southwest Portland, but right now the city only has one set of rules for stormwater throughout the entire city. And while that works pretty well in southeast, other parts of Portland where they've got, you know, basically river rock underneath the ground, in Southwest Portland, they get to operate under the same rules. So I looked at the plans, and supposedly the plans have you getting the stormwater run into a detention facility in front of the house, and somehow it's supposed to get out to the ditch on 25th Avenue. And I don't know how to do I mean,
The point is that the building permit was approved.
it's approved. The site plan, the permits have been, and I don't know if the building permit's been pulled, but the approval has been given to build a house there with that kind of stormwater system. And the only good news about that is we had another house above Quail Park that was built. And in that case, they put the stormwater detention facility on a flag lot, what amounted to the backyard. And of course, what ended up happening is one of the homeowners in Quail Park ended up having to redo his entire drainage system to deal with the problems created by water running out of that quote detention system or stormwater infiltration system right into his backyard. So, yeah.
Hey, John, these questions are like, kind of like, short answers are fine, you don't have to, I know you know a lot about each one of these
Okay,
topics.
so that I'll try to finish.
But
That's the
can I just
last.
ask a question?
Sure.
Are we gonna have like, a demonstration project of tiny houses inside the unlikely?
Maybe Donna will speak a little bit to what, what's being discussed on the Methodist Church property.
Okay. Second question, do you follow like the trees and like we had this windstorm and what kind of trees were lost? Do you follow that at all?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers haven't come in,
Okay.
but, we will follow up on that as much as we can in the next few weeks. The problem is trees are pretty, my experience after a number of these windstorms is they're a pretty random thing. Trees go down for a variety of different reasons, and you really don't know which ones are going to go in any particular storm.
Okay. Last question,
Sure.
Quail Park needs like an upgrade on its water line, right, from Ridge over to you guys?
Yeah.
How is that playing out? Is it like in negotiations or?
Yeah, we're talking with the city, the Water Bureau. It's gonna have to be installed. Well, we're trying to decide where it is gonna be installed and how it's gonna get paid for, because it has been a very expensive process for us to do some repairs in there. And we're working with the city on, usually the city gives credits for water line repairs to the individual household. They just never had, as far as I know, 90 households paying for it together. So we got months of negotiations on that, but it's possible that there will be a vault put in on the Quail Park property that reaches Ridge. The Quail Park property that reaches, is that Ridge Road? Yeah, that's Ridge. No, not Ridge.
Yeah, Ridge Drive.
It's Ridge Drive. We have property that runs all the way.
Yeah.
We have property that runs all the way to the street.
I think about the trail.
Huh?
I had to think about the.
No, it's not the trail.
No.
Our water lines, yeah. Yeah, on the other side of the trail and on the other side of the stream, the Quail Park owns a strip of land all the way over to the street where our water line is installed.
Okay.
Okay, so, thank you, John.
Oh, one
All
last
right,
thing.
one last thing.
The Maricara application has gone in spite of what the good rabbi said about it being somehow. I mean, there's two phases in it, but there's nothing that indicates that they don't want to put the street down the hill in.
And they were, the last, when I talked to them, the last I was told was that they had to put two roads in, one going to 25th and one going down into, down below. And so it'll be two cul-de-sacs with a little road between them is what they were planning.
It didn't, the plans that I looked at didn't look like that. But it may be.
Okay.
But I mean, the road down the hill just doesn't seem to be something that you'd get any benefit of a cul-de-sac off of. So I don't know.
Okay. Mike, did you have any of that in your conversations with them?
Well, no, we didn't really have a conversation. I just asked if they're back from their trip and wanted to meet. They're busy, so.
Okay.
We don't have anything scheduled yet.
And John, they did say that they were doing it in 2 phases too.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
there's no question about there was a proposal for 2 phases, but I think the street's gonna be pretty much one complete street.
Okay, so I know Renee's here tonight because he had an accident at 26 and Taylor's Ferry. And Scott, you just asked a question about the church property, Habitat for Humanity. They don't have plans yet. They're still working on that. Is it just to know what their plan is? It's going to be a cottage cluster of was it 12 houses or 12? Yeah, in a cottage cluster, so it's going to kind of look like townhouses. And part of it's unusable, the closer part to the street because of the slope. So that's all we have so far. When they have the plan, they are coming back to our neighborhood to show it to us. And they've had to board the church up because someone got into it and was camping in there. And I noticed after the windstorm, because I was deployed that day to 2 different scenes, and windows had blown open. We've had a tree down there. And so at break time when I was in this FEMA training over the weekend, I sent him, Steve Mazzanetti, a message and said, you got a tree down and you got a window open again. Hope nobody's inside. So he was going to send someone out to take a look. And I haven't heard back from him today on the result of that. But that's the latest that we have on that property, is if there is someone camping or if there's a problem with the property, contact Habitat for Humanity. And if you don't have that information, I'll just send me an email, I'll give it to you, and you can contact them with your concerns, and they get right on it. They've been really great work with us. They donated their shelving that was in the bottom room. They donated all that shelving, still heavy metals shelving, to the net team. And so we've moved it over to where ham operators are, into their garage for our supplies of medical equipment and stuff, so in the case we need it. So they're great that way. We really appreciate them doing that rather than just scrapping it or something. So Renee has concern about the intersection right close to there on 26th and Taylor's Ferry, because for the second time he was hit. A landscaping company or truck ran into you and your wife, your van with your children in it. There weren't any injuries?
It was just my wife driving and no
Okay.
injuries.
No injuries. And so what is it that you wanted to bring up about that?
I didn't personally want to bring up anything. You had asked that somebody be present here to make a motion to invite PBOT to speak next month. But I'd been in communication with PBOT directly about improving that intersection. We've talked about this over the last 3 years. We're not going to get any action on that intersection unless there's a more severe accident, unfortunately. But so I leave it up to you, Donna.
Okay, so
Taylor's Ferry in Lancaster?
And Southwest 26.
what's right next to Lancaster? 25th and Lancaster, 26th is the main intersection. And Scott has sent an email back and forth between Renee and myself trying to work something out. And then each time I pick up those Vision Zero signs, I ask for him, and we have a little visit. I try to find out what more we can do and who else can help with the process. And hold on just a second, Scott. And so what Scott has put through as a result after this last accident
Not
is
Scott. Another Scott.
Scott Batson.
Scott with PBOT.
Yeah, Scott.
Scott with Peabot.
Peabot, Scott Batson. Scott Batson. And so he put through an order to change the speed limit one more time to 25 miles an hour, starting from the off-ramp of I-5 going all the way down to Terwilliger Road. So it's being dropped one more time in an effort to try and slow those cars down coming off that freeway and give that intersection a little more safety. Don't know if it's going to work, but he's putting the order through. The downside is they're at least 16 weeks out on filling these orders. And so I'm hoping that maybe we get this in place in time for school so that, maybe we save, someone from that,
Yeah, another interesting thing that learned through the course of dealing with PBOT is that by city code, if you know of neighbors that live right by traffic signs and their vegetation actually covers it, it's actually the resident's responsibility to trim it. So if you know of your neighbor that might be living next to a traffic sign, tell them courteously to trim it. If not, anybody can report the visibility issue to PBOT, and then they get a letter from PBOT, but that takes weeks. So
Okay.
if you have a neighbor that's understanding, reach out to them, please.
Make a midnight run.
How many people have PDX Reporter on their cell phone? It's called PDX Reporter. It's another application or another app. And what it is from the city of Portland. And if you see a problem, pothole, whatever the problem is, illegally parked car, abandoned car, whatever, you right next to where you're seeing the problem, or as close as you can be, just pull up PDX Reporter. There's a little button there for your camera. You shoot a picture of it. It automatically GPSs your location, and it gives you some choices. What kind of problem is this? And you'll just, say like vegetation blocking a sign, and it gets routed to the correct person or the correct department, and they prioritize it. Now, I had a visit with the person, the sergeant who actually gets these and sorts through them, and said, we have an issue with 26th and Taylor's Ferry, and we have an issue with 35th and Huber. I've watched children run through that intersection in the morning trying to get to school because the cars won't slow down or wait long enough for them. And so, which leads into the reason for the right-of-way to get the kids through 30th and up to Maricara, so they cross and go into Jackson Middle School in a 20-mile-an-hour zone, rather than trying to get them through that intersection at 35th and Huber, which is a 35-mile-an-hour zone. And it's not a lit intersection, it's just a four-way stop. So first with yours, Renee, with the vegetation issue, Scott Batson sent me, I don't know, was it today? He copied you on it too. A link to their webpage about vegetation. I'll put it up on the neighborhood website so you don't have to write it all down. But on that webpage, it lists, if it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, from a stop sign, an intersection that has a stop sign, it needs to be 200 feet between you and that stop sign. You could be able to see it. So, some of these stop signs, you have to be practically right up on them, a lot, maybe 50 feet, and then you finally get to see a part of the sign because of the vegetation. So it needs to be trimmed back far enough so that a vehicle that far out can see it. So if you have that situation, you can use this information right here to determine whether or not you want to use your phone for PDX Reporter, or 823-SAFE is the other phone number you can call, or 823-3333, to report safety violations or concerns that you have. Okay, so that goes with the vegetation issue. And then, Scott?
A comment for the transportation angle or issue of 26 and Taylor Ferry. Like, I was on the Barber Concept Plan 5 years ago, and I got to know Roger and Marianne. And I think about 3 years ago, there was talk of the kind of the modernization of Barber, and each neighborhood got to propose what they saw as like an important project, like to improve pedestrian.
Yeah, we got to rank them.
Huh?
We ranked them.
Right?
Ranked
And
them.
that intersection, 26 and Taylor's Ferry, received some support. I can't remember if it was the first one, but there was some support. And I talked to Roger and Marianne, and they also, like at the transportation committee level, they also thought that was a good idea because people do walk from 26 and Taylor's Ferry up to barber,
Mhm.
and it's typical.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
And
definitely.
there's gonna be a sidewalk too, John, isn't
Yeah,
there?
it's definitely, well, uh, it's definitely an area where it's part of the DEIS to do improvements to 26th from Taylor's Ferry to the light rail, wherever the light rail is, and where the station is too, because there's issues about um, the main stations are proposed for 30th, but they've talked about alternatives at 26th. So that still has to be decided. So especially if one of the stations ends up at 26th, I think that it's almost inevitable that they'll be looking to do a sidewalk on at least one side of 26th from there to Taylor's Ferry. And that'll create some issues, but we'll just have to deal with them when they come.
This is the tree down situation on Lancaster and Ridgeville, between Ridgeview and Broadleaf. On Friday, one of the locations that I was deployed to, so I took a picture, and I don't know what kind of tree that is, but it's a sideways tree. And you know, the trees that I saw in other locations look like those that are kind of in Quill Park, that are hollow in the middle. I don't know what you call those things. They grow really fast.
Some of them are alders and some of them are big leaves.
Okay, yeah, they grow really fast and get top heavy, and then the wind blows them over. So that's all I can answer you on this. Is there's you can identify it by looking there. That's it. That's Chuck Quarterman. He's the net lead for Ash Creek and Crestview. He came over to our neighborhood to help us out on that day. So yeah, there was a lot of trees down. There were, at the time that I was deployed for 12 hours, there were about a dozen trees and wires down, and actually 2 people lost their lives. One because he was just out taking a walk and a tree came down on him. Yeah, and when I was standing out here, I was standing right where I'm taking the picture. A big gust of wind came up, and we have to wear hard hat when we're deployed as net, and a branch about that thick bonked me right in the helmet. I was lucky I had that helmet on. So that's all I can answer for you, Scott. Sorry. So the right-of-way encroachment is the other item. We're kind of running late, so let's get to that. And then if you have any energy, we'll answer any other questions. But let's deal with that. And that's at 30th and Wilbard. Judy, I left you a message on your phone today. I don't know if you got that. But 30th and Wilbard, the homeowner, and it wasn't actually the current homeowner. It was the one that before. That sold it. The homeowner, Jeffrey is the current homeowner. The one before, Garrett, I think, is the one who moved the fence out. And what occurred was the fence that was along his property, he moved over because the city never went through with the road on 30th Avenue. It was supposed to go all the way up to Huber. But and so they laid this pipe, which that creek goes through, that's so beautiful and nice, that meanders through Quill Park and Markham, and so that pipe went across so that they could fill it and then pave it, and there would be the street. Well, somewhere along the way, the minds got changed. What?
No.
What's no?
The pipe does not cross the right of way there. There is a pipe that comes down from Wilbard. There's a pipe that comes out from that property. There's a culvert, a agricultural culvert that comes in from the west and brings water down from probably Huber Street way to the west, 3 or 4 properties to the west. But none of those pipes actually cross the right of way. Judy and I have been in there with our machetes, chopping brush to find out where those culverts come in. And the city of Portland never put a pipe in to cross there.
Well, maybe I'm not using the right term. It's something that's big and round and water goes through it. I call that a pipe.
No,
Okay.
it does not
It's not-
cross the right of way.
Is that what it's called, a culvert?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
So-
culvert and it only comes out,
From west to east.
yeah, it only comes out into the right.
From west.
Behind Jeffrey's house and down.
We've had
Yeah.
the survey done and we know where our property lines are and none of those pipes cross completely into the right.
Not completely across it, but they're part of it. Because if you're standing on 30th and you watch the curb go down, you can clearly see that Garrett had put a bunch of bricks and made a nice little outcropping and then he infilled it with dirt so that it looked like his property went further, and then he could park behind it. And he made himself a little parking lot back there, and then the fence was moved over to where the end of that culvert is, and then followed straight up to the back. And so I walked it with the current renters that are there now, and I said, you know, it would be really helpful if children could get through here so they could get safely to school. Could they just go on this? Because it's just a little wire fence. So they also have a child that's going to be going to school at Jackson pretty soon and going to be needing to use that route.
Don,
So are you?
what I'm saying is, it ain't safe for kids to go up and walk along much of Huber to any place that they can go to along Huber. If you're saying that eventually they're gonna get the trail through on the north side of the park, which I know Don's working for, and they're gonna clear out the encroachments on 30th, then maybe it makes some sense if you assume those kids are gonna walk all the way up the hill to Maricara. But the fact of the matter is that culvert is not, as far as I know, even a city culvert. It's like, if you look at that culvert, it's a metal culvert that comes out from the drainage uphill in Huber. So you ain't gonna build a trail on it subject to getting an environmental review, and that's $20,000.
Okay, so here's what we're talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
So everybody else knows what we're talking about.
And you're right, he's encroached into the right.
He's come out right there.
But
I don't know if everybody can see that from there. And then straight back, you can see if this was the imaginary line right here.
right,
And he's encroached out this way. And then he also, well, it's kind of dark right here, kind of because of the projection, but his fence is clear out here.
yeah,
So if you just followed this line right here, there would be enough for a path for the children to be able to get through. And if you followed that, there would be enough for the children to get through over that culvert thing.
well, you understand that,
And then
where you're talking about that curve, that's a 50-foot right of way. You go back to the end of, not even to the end of his property, Donna, and then you go to a 40-foot right of way.
Oh, say that again, John, please.
You start off down that 30th right of way, and alongside the front part of that property, as it is configured now, you have a 50-foot right of way. But you get back to where the next property is, and then you have to go in another 10 feet before you hit the right of way, because that right of way, beyond halfway down his property, or 2/3 the way down his property, narrows down to a 40-foot right of way.
Okay, so I assume.
I got the map here, and I can show it to you. And
Let's do
you know, Judy and I live in different parts of Quail Park. Obviously, no surprise, the people who live right along there are not happy that this discussion's being had at all. It's no surprise to us that this discussion's been had, because we've had the same discussion with the people from West Multnomah Soil and Water, want to put that trail through. And you know, if you move away from just living right in the neighborhood, you will understand that, you can see that right there on that map, Donna, that,
That's why I changed the view, so,
Yeah.
because I want to make sure that we understand exactly what you're describing.
I know for a fact that there are 3 different open pipes running into that area, right there. That's what starts Quail Creek. And all of them are, and onto that adjoining property, it's all in an environmental zone. So understand that we've been talking with the city about repairing the bridge and to, how do I want to say this? To repair our bridge and do some work on our trail. To get the trail on the north side of the creek back to standards, we have to pay, the city of Portland requires an environmental review, and that's a $20,000.
Just to fix your bridges.
Not even to fix our bridge, it's to fix the trail on the north side of the creek. Even to go in, and Judy came up with the idea, if we actually own some ground on the north side of our trail up into the, basically it looks like the backyard of the house to the north. We actually own it, and we talked to the city about getting a building permit just to put in a retaining wall so we can kind of make the trail a little bit more in and go across the bridge. That one's, what did we say, $2,500 review just to build a 5-foot long.
23,000 for the permit.
Yeah, and, yeah, 23,000 for the permit for the trail, to repair the trail. So I'm not, there's some of our neighbors who are really freaked by this proposal. I'm not as freaked because I've seen it coming for a long time. But then we gotta ask the question, what do you get when you get them up there on Huber?
Oh, here?
What kind of traffic do you have that you seem to think needs to go through there to get to Huber?
I'm talking school children, trying to get through and trying to keep them off.
And I understand there's,
And
I walk to the bus.
Walkers as well, that'll pick it up, but the concern is to get the children off the 35 mile, get them out, and get away from that intersection at 35th and Huber, and just send them up this way. And then once you send them up this way and they get to Huber, they can traverse until it's ultimately decided whether or not it can be put through that next lot that's across Huber, or
yeah, I mean,
or
I
they
know
can,
the route you're talking, I walked it last year with
right here.
Southwest Trails. There's some issues with that area being encroached, and it requires you to you don't have completed right-of-way up 30th. They've either got to go over to 31st and walk up that sidewalk, and I've walked that a lot, or they're going to walk down to 32nd Place and go through on the pathway that goes through the common area, and it gets them up to Luradale, which is fine. Luradale's a pretty good street, but they end up being on 35th at another location if they go down Luradale and facing the same challenge of crossing 35th.
Well, but once they get to Lauderdale, they're already right here, right about here, where the Jackson property starts. It's the 20-mile-an-hour zone. It's got the flashing lights and stuff like that. All we're trying to do is get that.
But you don't want to know what the real problem is there, Donna, and we walked it when we walked with Southwest Trails people last year. Most of those kids don't go out that way. They want to avoid that. So what they're doing is they're taking a social trail that runs up the hill and crosses the back of the church property. So those kids, I mean, my daughter went to Jackson, and all those kids that walked from Quail Park, if they walked, that's the way they went. They came back across the back of the church property across the street on private property and that vacant lot there, and they come out on Lauderdale there. So, I mean, I'm not, it's, this is the way I would describe it, Donna. It's a good idea, but there are 6 steps to get to a trail, and we're at -3. So.
But we're pointed in the right direction though, John.
No, I'm
And
not,
if we can
I
try,
mean,
if we can try and
that's
save a
clearly
child.
an encroachment, no question about it. Where it leads from there, I mean, I respectfully disagree. Just like I disagree with Mary Ann earlier, I'm not sure that putting a bunch of kids up on Huber, as Huber is now constituted, is really a great idea. I mean, we've got the traffic slowed down some on Huber. If you'd been there before they put the speed bumps in on Huber, you would have not wanted to put a kid there. They'd be better off crossing 35th. Or, you know, crossing at Ridge, crossing 35th even at Ridge. Because Huber was a launching pad before they had those speed bumps in there. It's better now, but it isn't good. And they still got to cross that street too, so.
You live right there. You have anything to say?
Huber is my bike route home, and it's my least favorable section riding from downtown Portland on my bike route home, is riding my bike on Huber.
So trying to create
It's not the best, it's not a very pedestrian friendly road.
So trying to create a way for them to cross Huber and continue towards Maricare or Lauderdale.
I don't disagree with you. I come down and go to the bus stop at 35th and Ridge all the time. And that truck crossing 35th any place, and certainly at the Huber intersection with 35th and at the Ridge intersection is really a problem. But Huber right now, I mean, actually the 2 houses on the other side of the 35th Avenue situation, I mean, if you really look at it, there's right of way that, if you look, those 2 houses, the first 2 flag lot house there, they actually put in like a gravel path that you can't even see now that could be used there. But I've walked both those streets numerous times, and you know, crossing 31st is not great. People can go up 32nd, and that's even less good. I mean, there's a lot of pedestrian issues on Huber, but I mean, we ought to try to work through that problem. But I guess my feeling is we also ought to try to see if we can do more to make 35th, some crossing on 35th a lot safer, because that's, you know, people have to go to the bus there, and at both those corners, you know, it's, and I wish I'd have got the sidewalk farther down Huber, but that was all the money that the feds had when we made the deal to get the sidewalk as far as Huber and 35th. That, I mean, then it probably makes more sense if we could move that sidewalk farther.
The sidewalk on 35th is probably an easier battle than trying to push through that.
Okay, there is a sidewalk on when you're heading south that's on the right side. There's a sidewalk there.
But not out.
But they have to cross that intersection and then get on that sidewalk.
I totally agree with
And
you.
there's crazy
Well,
people in that intersection. I can tell you, I've watched it.
No question about it. And you personally did not surprise me, because I've certainly heard people. What you got to understand is West Multnomah would like to see that trail go through, because they want us to abandon our trail through Quail Park. Because, yeah.
Trail number 4.
Yeah, it's designated trail, but that's so close to the water feature. It's not even really a stream, but we call it Quail Creek that runs through there. That West Multnomah is in favor of that, because they think that that will substitute for us they would rather have us tear out our bridges and our trail that goes into Quail Park and send the people up to Huber too. So
The whole length of Huber?
The whole length of our trail where it's close to the stream, and that's most of our trail. So, yeah,
Okay.
no, let's work on it, Donna. I'm not opposed to working on it, but it's got the people who live right along it absolutely terrified. But I'll be honest with you, this is what happens every time Southwest Trails comes in and starts talking about one of their trails on the unimproved right-of-ways. This is no different than any of the others. And I mean, if you followed it a few years ago, there was a massive explosion in the neighborhood
Yeah, Arnold Creek.
in Arnold Creek as a result of this same issue. So, I mean, maybe we can do better.
We just need
Let's
to keep
keep
it, the
discussing.
reason why we are doing it.
No,
Try and find something.
I don't think it's as safe. I don't think Huber is as safe as you perceive it, but, I mean, it's still, and I don't think it solves all the problems. I mean, Southwest Trails is taking people, when we walked on our tour, they took us across private property to go through that social trail that's coming up to the school. That's how most of the kids get there. And I mean, social trails are another whole issue, so.
It's obviously a topic needs further discussion.
Absolutely, and it's something we ought to work on. I mean, I'm more than happy to work on it.
That's part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're way over time.
Yeah.
So anything else left on here we table for the rest of the month? Somebody make a motion for that and let's agree to it.
Which was that?
Anything else left on here we'll address next month.
So moved.
Eric, and then
John seconded.
John seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed say no. Abstentions say whatever. Okay, the motion carried. And then if there's nothing else, there were a couple of announcements on the drug recycling. If you have any drugs that you need to get rid of, or you know someone who has drugs that they would like to get rid of, there is a drug turn-in event. It's on Sweeney's website, sweeney.org, www.sweeney.org. You can go there. There's a few other announcements in here. Our net meeting is tomorrow night at the Fire Station 18. You're welcome to attend and see what it's all about and how we are practicing to save lives in the event that comes to it. So other than that, I will see you all next month unless somebody else has another reason that we should just hang out. I need to have a motion to adjourn.
I assume you guys are.
Zella makes the motion to.
So moved.
John, given, seconded, motion adjourned. I do that for the tape.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I heard everybody say it, so there are no no's and there are no abstentions. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you very much, John and Judy, for showing. Thank you very much. So,
Yeah, I don't, honestly, I don't
This
have.
index down in your trail, I think that's the only way that's ever gonna fly. It's a good idea, but the only way that's gonna fly is to try to
Which
tie
screws
it
me
in
up
with,
because the night of
aren't they still talking about putting trails
I
in
don't
South
know.
America?
I think so. Well, there is one that goes all the way up to.
No, the actual like bike path.
Oh.
Cause that bike path,
Okay, we do it on this one here.
So-
That's kind of crazy.
well, you see here, I mean, but that bike path was supposed to come right through here.
I think what happened,
Yeah, right here.
I didn't talk
That's
about
the right of way to bring that bike path through.
I
Your
think
bike path
where
comes
I
through
told
here,
people
there you
that
get
lived
over, right?
in the
Okay.
King Quail.
So if
And
you
then
can
from there
already-
down all the way right here, which lines
Lines.
perfectly to what you're trying to do, right
Yeah.
here, right?
Is, I
So,
told the trails.
Try to piggyback, saying, okay, well, this is great to get everyone.
I mean, there are so many different meetings with so many different people.
Straight through there.
And I mean,
Yeah, this is a
There's a-
lot.
it's a
lot of
mess.
trees.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I look at this.
Well, so is that.
This,
I mean, this
that's,
is a major endeavor
that's-
here, so.
that's
As long as it
30
doesn't
years
cross
old.
water. If it crosses
Look
water,
where,
then it'll
when
cross.
Indian
Well,
Hills was
when
developed,
you're up there, cause
Where
I
they're
run
supposed
the coil truck.
where the trail was supposed to be.
In
That's a pedestrian way between,
You know, the street view.
and I think
That's how I run.
yeah,
To get
you
into
know,
that Quail Park.
it's-
I run through there. And yeah, it costs.
I mean, there's nobody, I've
In
got to
Quail
be
Park.
honest.
Yeah, but where that.
There's
that
nobody in
moves the
Quail
fence
Park
back,
that should
there
be
is no-
absolutely
Yeah, so it-
surprised
Yeah.
we'd have to go.
if they read their documents. But I work in this industry and 90% of the people don't read their documents. There's language in our CC&R
But-
that says, we're all.
So-
Yeah, Huber kind of sucks, to be honest.
I walk, and I had to stop walking.
Yeah,
because of
all the
surgery,
way
but
down
I'm
to
getting back to
Judy's
Michigan
house.
now.
We're at the bottom of the
And,
hill.
I
I have to go back and forth
At
on
the
the
bottom of
sides,
it.
depending on where I am
In
on
the
Huber,
first
or side I
cul-de-sac.
walk.
Off of Lancaster.
The first one.
That's what
Or I
I
have
think,
to
that's
step
what I
on
think,
the
you know, is what I do now.
25th, actually.
So like when
Come in
I come up on the,
left.
On the left.
whatever that road is that you pop up from Quail Park, and then I go to Ridge, and then come out on 35th, and then at least on 35th, you can just, you know, just stay on the grass.
I forgot to put that bow on there.
There's a trail that comes up from,
Yeah, we're gonna like undo the bow.
yeah,
This
there's
is
a couple of spurs.
the neighborhood now owns its
The
own
first one
computer.
kind of winds around,
It's donated.
crosses a big cottonwood,
So,
which is
depending
something
on who
that
wants
Judy
to
and
be president now to have a
talked to
computer to
Brenda
work with,
about it
because I've been doing it all
we'd
my life.
like to see it gone, and
Yeah,
all
so-
our other neighbors think it's so pretty.
Lifting
That
out.
throws this, that throws.
Yeah, I talked to Phil this afternoon, and
That,
we were, are you going to be teaching that?
It's only gonna cost us.
I can kind of show that out and come off through a couple, I can bring some.
and we can't get consent.
We went
We
to,
can't
Jim and I
get
went to the
consensus
Ash Creek
among our
Crestwood, net
There are
meeting
people who just love those.
I would pray for it to
Uh,
shed. and
last
then
Wednesday.
people would want it taken out.
and, guess what they did? Knots.
Knots?
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
Chuck
and
Manville
only
and,
the- Oh, it's,
Chuck Manville, Chuck Quarterman and Dave Manville.
well, and,
Built this
Yeah.
PVC square, like 4 feet by 4 feet and 4 feet
We're-
high of PVC. And then they put two 2x4s across
Yeah,
the
and
bottom ones. And he
the
stood on them so that when
majority of our
people
board lives
tied their ropes
either
around and pulled
adjacent
up on
to
it, the thing didn't move around.
within 1
And,
house.
we did
Yeah.
nuts.
And
Or
so,
at the,
I don't know what.
the church, the.
They-
Well,
the-
then, you know, the only way to remember a knot is to teach them how to tie a knot.
Yeah.
So if you got it fresh in your head, you can show us all the knots.
Oh, this weekend,
Yeah.
there was a guy sitting right in front of us, one of the firemen.
I
And,
don't, yeah, I don't think.
he sat there, tied it around the leg of the table, and just tied, to keep himself entertained during the meeting. It was kind of funny.
Cause I'm here.
I can bring some.
Yeah,
And then I'll bring my computer too, so we can kind of go over the,
They don't need, they don't.
because, what you sent me an email today or yesterday about the new Google Drive. And,
Yeah, I can't find it, and I asked Phil,
and
he's
Phil,
like,
well,
looked all over for it too.
Phil emailed me, said he couldn't find it, so I resent it to him, but he knows something, and I'll find, so
We got,
Our own separate entities.
well, first of all.
I think if you Google Street, it'll come up, but we can look over all that tomorrow.
All right, so we're gonna do the ops plan tomorrow.
No, we're not up to
Just a
20.
brief probably. We're just gonna go over.
13, we
some
were up to
housekeeping
19.
and talk about our shelves that we just got.
93.
And,
So we've
Phil
got
just wanted to
that
go there, put
issue.
them up himself, and
The
I said,
renters,
Phil, he's saying if I
we've
feel
had
a
this
heart attack.
discussion, which is a
Phil,
really interesting
You don't need to be
discussion
doing that
given
by
what
yourself over there.
Commissioner
They're
Udale is
heavy.
saying the neighborhood
And,
associations have
I mean,
got
they're
to
big steel ones.
they're not getting
and
enough
shelves,
of
big, huge
the
boards.
renters in the neighborhoods involved.
We need to do
in
it
the
as a team,
neighborhood
it would be a
association.
team building
Sure.
exercise. Some, for us to be working together as a group. We don't have to be, doing, net stuff, saving, but just working together as a team. And, we can put it
No,
together.
I'll let you guys go.
And then, all
You
our
saw
supplies
that she
over
also
on
fired
Huber,
the
right
head
off
of
of the
BDS
Karen's
too.
house. She's like the
I didn't know
third
that.
house in.
Okay.
I have
on
mixed
the left
feelings
if you
about
go
that,
east.
but
I don't
The
know
supplies
enough.
are there,
I just-
plus Kim and I've got
It's-
some too.
My schedule.
And, we can load up the
My
shelves.
son's a runner. He lives in one of those
With the money
neighborhoods.
that we have for net.
I mean, I tried to get
Buy
him
a
interested.
couple of those.
It's hard to
plastic
get
bins.
people interested
to
in
put on.
anything.
I know we were at the Asheville Press
I know.
net meeting, they had a great idea, they put 5-gallon buckets, they split their medical supplies up and put them in 5-gallon buckets and distribute them throughout the neighborhood,
Oh,
outside.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as you can tell.